Why, hello, everybody.
What happened to your voice?
That's how you get people to leave with Steel Link right away. Why, hello, everybody. I don't. There used to be this weather guy in New Hampshire on a local channel called WNDS. His name was Al Caprinian. And that's how he used to do the weather. Be like, why, hello, everybody. It's going to rain today. And he used to talk with like this really terrible, like, it almost sounded like he was a clown without wearing clown makeup. Like, that's what his voice sounded like. And I'm being mean to him a little bit, but he actually is a huge jerk. My dad, when my parents first got divorced, lived in the same apartment complex that he did. And I saw him over in the community, the complex. It was like a condo development, had a community pool that everyone shared. And my dad and I went swimming, and Al Caprini was there. He was like, hey, do you have a pool pass? And I said, no, my dad just moved here. We still haven't got it. He's like, then you need to leave. And he was a complete jerk to me. And I'm like,
so he was big as a clown. That's just a jerk.
He big shot at me. He big shot at me a little bit. But it's okay. He's been doomed to AM radio. And so, hi, everyone. I guess we'll go back to the show here. We are really excited for today's episode of B2B Tonight. I've known our guest tonight for a long time. Rishi, you did an interview with her a long time ago, right?
I did a game show interview with her.
Yeah, she was great on that. If you don't know who Kasey Jones is, hang out. She's great. She knows all this cool stuff. There's going to be things for SDRs, leaders, C-suite. There might even be a few tears, a few laughs. I don't know what's going to happen, but you should definitely hang out. Before we started that, though, Rishi and I have been working on something. This is I'm really being vulnerable here. The whole theme of this episode is about being vulnerable, I think, a little bit. But I don't know if people know this, but I love making music. That's why I have a guitar behind me. If I pan my camera over, which I'm not going to because I'll get my video guy will yell at me. I have a piano over here. I like making music and stuff, but I've always been too much of a wuss to do it for a job. So Rishi and I had this idea. I don't know if people know this, but Broadway's been shut down, right, Rishi?
Yes, it has.
And one of the things that makes me really sad about Broadway being shut down is LeadIQ was definitely going to invest some money into making a Broadway show. And now we can't do it, right, Rishi?
I mean, we cannot.
But
not right now, but we will.
Yeah, so rather than have the Broadway show and have our dreams be crushed, we thought we would do something a little different this week for a bit. It's taken a lot of effort. Rishi burned a lot of calories preparing for this role, but we're going to present you with this. This is Sales the Musical.
Hey, prospect, my little prospect. I wanted to tell you my feelings are
in a world of scripted calls and template emails. Two men forge an unlikely alliance in the face of adversity to create a bond that transcends business propositions.
help you. Let's hit quota and we'll reach for the stars. Go to the President's Club.
This summer, come see the musical SDRs are calling revolutionary, sensational, and the next big thing in the world of marketing strategy. From the brilliant minds of Ryan O'Hara and Rishi Mathur comes Sales, the Musical.
It's the end of the month.
Wow, that was great.
Rishi, I love the part where you were just pouring your heart out in everything that you're doing. You're 110% the whole time.
I go nothing but 110%. I learned that from the great Ryan Sheffer.
Oh, that's a different Ryan at LeadIQ. I thought you were going to say me. Shout out to Ryan, by the way. Hi. So I hope you enjoyed that. We'll probably post that natively on LinkedIn later on this week or something. But thank you for watching that if you liked it. It's unfortunate that the show got canceled and we pulled out for financing, so it's probably never going to get made. But now you know what we were working on. We were going to make the greatest thing you've ever seen. Let's get to the show, should we, Rishi? You want to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's invite our guest.
Using advanced technology, Kasey has been beamed into the meeting. This is an incredible experience. It's weird, but it's all right. How's it going, Kasey?
It's going well. How are you, Ryan?
Good. Isn't it weird that like we pretended that we did an intro, but we didn't? You don't have to cut this, Nick. Don't worry. So for people that are at home, we actually are doing the recording a day early today, and we're in the same clothes 2 days in a row. And Rishi looks like he's playing house right now.
I am playing house. Can you hear me? I am playing house. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Before, when we were doing the testing, we were talking about how like you kind of look like a little kid. I'm just expecting your mom to bring out like apple slices in a sippy cup. Cookies.
It's Oreo cookies and milk.
Oh, that's a good mom.
This is exciting. So for people that don't know, we want to tackle today a big thing that people don't talk about enough, and that's how to be more likable when you're doing sales, prospecting, business in general. And I couldn't think of someone more likable than Kasey Jones. So I was like, hey, Kasey, can you come be on this thing? We're going to totally send you.
People that would argue with you on that, but we'll take it.
That's fine. I remember.
You said we'll take it? Who is Wheel?
Like
me and my
me and my alter ego.
the
that makes me likable, right? That I speak in the third person.
Yes, of course.
So for people that don't know you, Kasey, tell people like what you do. Like I know what you do, Rishi knows what you do, but what's the Kasey version of what you do?
Okay, so I am founder of A Better Jones, which is a growth strategy firm, and we help startups grow faster. I really sit on the marketing side, but I started in sales, and I'm super, super passionate about helping sales teams be successful. I also have a podcast with Ashley Early called The Other Side of Sales that is about being a non-stereotypical white bro in sales. And then I have a new project called Our Galaxy that's all about teaching particularly people who struggle with personal branding, how to get out there and how to be sort of thought leaders in their industry.
So one thing I want to ask you, you're someone that obviously is a great personal brand. In fact, when we did our prep call, you mentioned that Poopery reached out to you about being an Instagram influencer, which is like a dream come true. Or I think you used a different term, right? Was it a poopa influencer?
A poopfluencer? It's a really hard word to say.
It's a very difficult, complex thing to say. So one of the things that we were talking about with that is the value of a personal brand. There are a lot of people that are out there now that are in reps that probably roll their eyes and think like, I hear LeadIQ say this all the time. Why do you think you need a personal brand?
So you need a personal brand because here's the deal. You have a personal brand. Whether you've put effort into it, whether you've applied intention or not, you have one. Your personal brand, I have my qualms with Jeff Bezos, but he's got a great quote about it. And he's like, your personal brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. And if you're a salesperson, if you're anybody, you have a personal brand. It's your reputation. But actually putting intention into it, really thinking about it and investing in it, that's going to mean that you are owning your personal brand rather than kind of happenstance and sort of coincidence. I will also say though, I've been thinking a lot lately about the difference between personal brand and thought leader. And I think everybody has a personal brand, but you have the opportunity to become a thought leader. And that requires more work, it requires more intention, and frankly, it requires more giving. And so what I've been thinking about more and more is about how we can actually become thought leaders in our space, not just how we build kind of personal brands. Because I think the other thing about that term is it makes people feel like they're trying to be an Instagram influencer, which we all roll our eyes at, and we don't.
I'm trying to be
doesn't have a lot of substance.
Yeah, Rishi, stop doing that. No one likes your post, please. I unfollowed you yesterday. I hate you.
Hey, you know what? You know what, Rishi? That's a sign. If you've got haters, that's a sign that you are on the up and up.
But but he's my only one. He's my follower too.
I wish on Instagram it wouldn't just show followers; it would show haters next to it.
Yeah, but don't you have those accounts that sometimes you kind of hate follow them because you're like, they annoy me, but I get fueled by the annoyance.
I have a friend that is completely on the opposite side politically from me, like on the spectrum.
God.
And I just I think I hate myself because I'll just go to his Facebook posts and just like read them and get angry. And but I like it. Like I like getting angry. I don't comment. I don't do anything. I just lurk and feel anger. So I'll tell you something, people that are sales reps that are listening to this and sales leaders. And I know we've been piping on this over and over again. Part of the reason I tell people this all the time is I do have some intention. If you have a personal brand, you'll get more engagement on social, and you can prospect the people that engage with stuff on social with phone and email. You don't have to do it on social and be weird and sell people on there and be creepy. But if you have a personal brand, you're also going to be more likable. That's the thing. Like one of the things I've been talking about, Kasey, is like you are selling to extraordinary people. If they got to a position where they're at C-level or VP level, they probably do extraordinary things, take risks, they're really interesting. You don't get there if you're boring. You're not just like a basic person. I know it sounds really mean, but you're not just like a basic boring person if you've climbed up and done this stuff. And what that entails is that they want to be reached out to, extraordinary people want to be reached out to by extraordinary people. And that's one of the easiest ways to do it. What are some things that you've done? So you work with all these different people, you coach people, you professionally develop people. Mm-hmm. What are the people, like, do you ever work with people that aren't likable and you figure out how to make them more likable? Like, is that something that ever comes up? I know it's a weird thing to say, but like.
I mean, I've worked with some people that are kind of mean, but no. So here's the deal. I genuinely think that like everybody is likable in some way. And particularly the people that I wind up working with, they're passionate about the work they do. They're smart. They care about the work they do. They're invested in it. And those are likable people. There is something incredibly captivating about having a conversation with someone who is really freaking jazzed about the work that they do. That kind of energy is infectious and it makes you see the positive side in them, even if there's some personality things where you're like, don't love that person, or we don't necessarily sort of gel, but like, I respect and appreciate their passion.
Do you think enthusiasm is something that is caused by the circumstances someone has, or do you think it's something that they can make themselves?
Oh,
and there's ways to do
it. Enthusiasm, joy, all of these things, those are intentions. Okay. Like every single day that you wake up, and this is the other thing that I think about a ton is personal growth and personal development. Like, what are the things that you can do every day? What's your morning routine like? What are the books that you're reading? Like, you can have habits and practices in your life that make you, frankly, more likable, right? If you are starting your day thinking about what you're grateful for and what you're going to do to make today great or have an impact today, you're going to be a lot more likable, positive, optimistic person than if you spend your time, hate reading your friend's Facebook page just so you can get really angry.
I'm great. I'm not a bad person.
No, you're a wonderful person. Because here's the deal. I think if you weren't you would go to that profile and you would comment and you would get in big fights on Facebook with people. So the fact that you could sort of go and lurk and like, I don't know, keep it to yourself is telling. But I think energy and enthusiasm, that's a choice.
So you can be enthused about, you're saying like, you can technically be enthused about whatever you're doing. If you're an SDR, AE, VP, whatever you are, and the positions you're in, you just have to choose to be enthusiastic about stuff and attack the day a little bit, right?
Yeah. And you have to find the thing about that role or about that kind of endeavor that is feeding the stuff that really matters to you. And like, dude, being an SDR is a grind. Okay. One of the reasons why I'm like such a huge advocate for SDRs is because I feel like you don't get the love and attention and respect that you deserve. The proverbial, can I curse on this thing?
Of course.
Okay, the shit rolls downhill, and that means that
sorry.
SDRs get the worst of it. And despite the fact that you are like the front line, you are doing really, really, really tough work, and it's hard. It's a grind. So I know that you can't always be enthusiastic, but if you can think about what is it about your role that you do enjoy, that is fueling you and your dreams and your career and the things that you want to learn, and also all of the good that you're doing, all of the ways that you're serving both the AEs that you support, the customers that you're working with, like all of this, it's all about perspective. And it doesn't mean you're going to love every day, and it doesn't mean you're going to love every part of your job, but you can kind of zoom out and think about the big picture and how it's fueling the things that really matter to you.
So, quick question. If, say, somebody's very enthusiastic with what they're doing, but then along the way they started getting discouraged, what is some ways to pick them back up? Because I know a lot of times, like, you'll have an idea, you have a project you're working on, super excited about it, and then all of a sudden somebody says something or something happens and it's just not going the way you expect it to go, and then you get so discouraged. How do you...
Thanks for the personal attack, Rishi.
You're welcome.
Well, no, I think this is a really, really good question. So I think there's a couple of things. It partly depends on what's causing the discouragement. Is it because one person said something negative? Okay, you got to use that stuff as a data point, a single data point. And it does mean that, like, it's worth looking at, what did they tell you? Is there something you can learn from it? Or also look at where it comes from. Is it coming from somebody who, like, I don't know, they have a vested interest in your failure? Maybe you pay a little less attention to that. But I think that if you are getting frustrated, take a step back. Think about what you want to get out of this project, or what the goal is, and figure out how you can get the help you need, get the feedback that you need, and learn and get that project back on track and back to where it's going. Don't give it up. Okay. Think about what about it is frustrating you. Are you hitting obstacles that you can find a workaround for? I think one of the things that particularly sales professionals that are young in their career, you're reluctant to ask for help because you're worried that people are going to think less of you, or they're going to think like you don't know what you're doing. Here's the deal. None of us know what we're doing. It's like, we really don't. I've had conversations with, like, mentors who I just think the world of, who I think are so ridiculously smart, about the fact that they don't know what they're doing either. They're kind of figuring it out as they go. That's what we're all doing. And so give yourself a little bit of slack, and then make a plan of how you can reach out to someone who can give you some advice and give you some help. You know, talk to your friends and to your colleagues, to be like, to vent and be like, hey, I'm struggling with this. What do you think? Like, get your personal team of advisors, like, in on this thing to help you get it moving again and get confident and positive about it.
So I was actually thinking about this a little bit. This is I want to tell people that are watching this, one of the big reasons I wanted to have Kasey on is, I remember this past summer you wrote a blog post, and it was about dealing with, like, all kinds of stuff in your personal life, like overcoming all this stuff.
It's about my midlife existential crisis is what Ryan is referencing.
I loved it because it was completely true, and people follow you and watch your videos online and everything you do, like, you have a big following and stuff, and they don't realize that, like, people like you are also dealing with problems and insecurities all the freaking time. Like, it's not just SDRs. You're a VP of sales. If you're a VP of sales right now, you probably have people that are on your team that you, like, don't get why they don't like you, or, like, you don't know. Like, I could go down the list of things like that. Rishi, how many times do I call you during the week and say, oh man, maybe this idea is stupid. Maybe we should stop doing this. I don't, like, I'm literally, I seem confident, but, like, behind the scenes, I'm, like, having meetings and talking about, like,
yeah, he's a mess.
Dude, it sucks. Like, but, like, I actually think it's something that's important, because one of the things that's really risky is we want to tell people today that, like, you need to put yourself into the business you're doing. Like it's the days of having it be separate are gone. There used to be a time where like you would have an email address and you'd get out of work and your laptop would stay at work, your desktop would stay at work. We now have laptops to bring home. We have phones with our emails and cold calls we're receiving on it. I've got texts that I text you, I text Rishi. Like we've got like this stuff in our personal life that's now spliced in and it's meshing into one.
Yeah.
I got this job through a text from you.
Well,
that's true.
Okay, let me make a quick point here. Another real advantage of a personal brand. Okay, so I had Ashley and I had James Bodden on our podcast, I don't know, a month ago. And we were talking about, now it was a little longer than that because we recorded it like right when shelter in place was happening. So like 2 months ago. But so we were talking about personal brand. And he told us this whole story. That's my dog crying behind the door here. So if you can hear that in the background. He told us this whole story about how when he got laid off in 2014, he had 6 weeks of constant applying for jobs, like sending out resumes, all of this other stuff. And then he got laid off, I think in like 2018 or 2019, after he'd been doing his podcast. He kind of built his personal brand on LinkedIn, and he posted one thing on the day that he got laid off, and he had a job offer, a signed letter 2 days later. So this is the other thing that a personal brand does is that, and especially if you're authentic about it. So people get a sense of who you are as a person, and they trust you. And so this is the amazing thing about what everyone is going to be watching here. Like Ryan and I we haven't hung out that much. We don't know each other that well, but we both feel like we are closer friends than the like interaction would dictate, because both of us have these really active personal brands, and we both have this sense that we feel like we're kindred spirits and we know each other pretty well. And then you throw Rishi into the mix and it's like a whole other, it's like leveling that thing up. I mean, it's a little ridiculous. Once I realized that Rishi worked for you, I was like, well, shit. Okay. Makes that much more sense. And that there's this like growing fondness for the whole LeadIQ team.
I was kind of mad that Rishi had you on an outbound TV video before I got you on something with me, because I was like, oh, damn. One of the things I like about doing these longer winded pieces of content is we can like get deeper into this stuff. But like, if you're listening to this, I want something that anyone in B2B can listen to, whether you're sales, marketing, VP, SDR, like everyone here that's listening, this applies to you. You can put yourself into things, and don't worry. I think a lot of people are afraid to put themselves into the stuff they do. And it's because they think they're going to get rejected.
Well, and it's terrifying. Like, my brother, who's very, very sarcastic, he once said, well, if you don't try, then you can't fail. Right?
That's a really good point.
And that's the thing. And it's scary to put yourself out there. I'm actually writing a blog post right now about the secret that if you're new to personal branding and new to sort of putting yourself out there on social media that you don't realize, guess what? Now's the time to put yourself out there, because no one's freaking following you. And if you say something stupid, not that many people are going to notice. And so the risk is really low, right? Like you have this opportunity to kind of test things and see how it goes. And I think the other thing that I see a lot is people think that it has to be like, you have to have this like plan. It has to be perfect. The video that like, I don't know, that went viral and got me kind of started on all of this and got me started doing video and got me way more active on LinkedIn. I recorded it in one take. I didn't think about what I was going to say. I had my phone on a stack of Post-its leaning up against my computer monitor. Like it was just in my office at WeWork. Like it was not professional. Like I didn't have lighting, none of that. Like, but it's by far the best video I've ever done because it was the most personal and it was the most passionate. And that's the thing. It's like people are kind of, especially like not on Instagram. I think people are really fed up with stuff that feels overly produced and fake. People want to connect with people. And so putting yourself out there and being really like authentically you, whatever that means, that's the stuff that's going to resonate. That's what's going to land.
It actually makes me think of, people probably have heard me say this before on stuff, but I'm a huge fan of Aaron Sorkin. Like, I love Aaron Sorkin's work. Like, I love The West Wing when I was growing up. Newsroom's great. Like, well, first couple seasons were good, and then it got bad. But that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. We're not critiquing that. One of the things that I saw Aaron Sorkin do on a panel that he was on about like writing, he was talking about this, and I watch it because like it helps me come up with ideas for what we're going to do at work for marketing and stuff. He talks about people have a natural curiosity to actually see what's happening behind the scenes of things that are actually happening. And it's every script that he did that Steve Jobs movie, and it basically was what was happening before he went up and presented for 3 different product launches.
Yeah.
He did it for The West Wing, where what's happening behind what's the president saying and stuff. Newsroom, what's happening behind cable news. It's the same thing when you post stuff on LinkedIn. That's the easiest way to start, is take things that are happening in your life and post them. The reason this relates back though is like, we want you to build closer relationships with people that you're closing and prospecting. The easiest way to get that closeness is by producing content that shows people the real you and what you're actually going through.
And here's the other thing that I'd say is like, if you're nervous about it, you don't have to go immediately into creating your own content. Start engaging with others. And please don't think that great post ! Is engaging with someone's content. No, it's add your thought. Like, when someone posts something, what does it make you think about? What did you learn from it? What immediately came to mind? Don't overthink it. Think about it in a much more personal way. Like, Ryan, you're hitting on this point of like, how do you build an actual relationship? Well, stop thinking about it as though it's something different than what you do in person. Okay. So, and this is always my recommendation. So I coach a lot of like early stage founders that are trying to sell their products themselves. And I try to explain like, how do you write a good sales email? Right. Okay. Well, one of the things, or how do they like give their pitch or whatever? What I always say is, imagine you're at a cocktail party. You've had 1.5 drinks. You are not drunk, but you're feeling it. You're in a good mood. And you start talking about your product or about the problem that your product solves. You're talking about something that like you are excited about. How would you say it then? You're not going to use freaking jargon. You're not going to use a bunch of like long jargony buzzwords. You're going to speak in simple language. It's going to feel personal, and you're going to speak with energy and excitement. And like, if you can take that mindset of like getting active on social this is the other thing I hear. Oh, well, I don't want to brag. Look at any account that you like follow and that you really like what they do. Do they ever brag? I mean, some people do, but like most people don't. Most of the time they're sharing. They're sharing what they're thinking about. They're sharing something they've learned. Sometimes they're sharing something they tried and failed at. Like, think about it like you're building an actual relationship. It's just relationship building at scale, which is kind of cool.
I love the party thing, by the way. That's great. Like, talk about it like you're at a party. That's such a good way of wording it.
And also, Ryan, how are you on 1.5 drinks right now?
What'd you say?
How would you be on 1.5 drinks? I'm curious to know this. You know, Ryan doesn't drink ever.
Yeah, people know that. That's I don't drink alcohol. So.
He does not. He doesn't even do.
Okay, but you still know, like, you're at a party and you're like in a great mood and like, you know, you're jazzed about something. It's that feeling.
The main reason I don't do it is because I'm always drunk.
Yeah, always.
That's my secret.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a pretty good secret.
So here's the thing though, like VPs of sales, they get caught up in this high level, like visionary thing of what they're saying sometimes. And it's like, okay, what's that really mean? And it doesn't make sense to them.
Oh yeah. Well, and here's the deal. I think another like example that I use all the time, and I've even like gone way back in his history and like saved the individual links to the post, but Adam Schoenfeld, who He's VP of strategy at Drift now, but he was CEO of Sift Data. Is that right? I don't know.
It was
They
called
got-
Sifrock.
Sift Rock. I always think that it's Sift Rock, but that doesn't sound right to me. Okay. But so they got bought by Drift. But like 2 years ago now, he did this whole thing where he did a 3-month stint as his company's SDR, as the CEO. And so he had this whole series of like CEO as SDR. And it's about him trying, like, and it's actually very sort of endearing because it's him being super honest where he's like, oh my God, this is so much harder than I thought it was. And like talking about how he tried one campaign and it totally bombed, or like when he pissed people off, or like all of these things. He's super transparent about the things that he's doing, what he's learning, how hard it is, mistakes he made. And I think it's just a phenomenal example of how you don't have to share something about like your big, bold vision for the world or the future. It's about like, what are you doing day to day, and what are you learning, and what are you trying? You
have to do the Steve Jobs pose, right? Like when you're selling, like that's what people are doing. That's like that joke fell flat. I suck. I talked to Adam when he was doing that. So like he had failed for a little while, and he asked me to do a meeting with him, and we just jammed around and talked for a little while. And like the cool part is all his posts were just transparently what was happening, and everybody was following it and keeping it had a ton of posts and stuff. But the thing is, I felt like I knew Adam. And I felt like I had a close relationship with him. And when they were trying to work on a partnership with LeadIQ, I instantly felt obligated to take a meeting with him because it stems back to, I like this person, I'm closer with him. That's what you need to do if you're watching this and you're trying to figure out how to get a closer relationship. You need to be vulnerable and expose yourself to the things that you're dealing with. Here's the deal. You need to be a human, okay? Like, what do we connect with others on? It's not about, we don't form close connections with people because we only talk about how great things are. Your closest friendships are the ones where you share real, honest things. And so if you can share real, honest, vulnerable things with more people, let me tell you, you will have more close friendships. And I whenever I say this, people don't believe me, but like I was never a kid growing up or in college or even in my 20s where I had a lot of friends. I just was not that person. I went to 3 high schools in 3 states in 3 years. I was always the new kid. I went to a school where I didn't really fit in college-wise. And so I was a loner for a really long time. And I'd have like 1 or 2 kind of close friends. It is a weird thing to say, but I have so many really close friends that I made on social media. Like people that like holy moly, like James Buckley, when I met him in person for the first time, it was like, I don't know, like we ran across a room and like jumped into each other's arms. That's going to happen when I finally meet Rishi in real fucking life. When I met Ryan, we both were like, oh my God, like freaking out. And I was like so honored that he knew who I was. And then I found out he felt the same way about me. And it's like, that's the thing that happens is like, you jump like 10 stages in a friendship because somebody already feels like they know you, because of you being really honestly you in this public forum.
I think the one thing I like Ryan that he does a lot is he interviews people when he doesn't know something.
Yeah.
So he'll ask for help online sometimes, but mostly it's interviewing people that I think is really interesting. That I don't see a lot of VPs doing that at all.
No.
Because I think they're supposed to have all the answers, but you can't have all the answers. So I was going to say, Rishi, what you're building off of is a good point too. I also think that if I'm looking at a leader, I'm way more likely to like a leader if they are putting stuff out there also. Like, I feel like that you're going to respect them more. You're going to know that they have some thought. If they're a thought leader, you're going to respect them for their thought leadership on things if you see it's being validated by other people online. So I actually just did a YouTube video about like, why do leaders need to have an active presence on LinkedIn? And so I did a ton of research on
like the statistics around this. And I think it was in 2016, CEO.com, which is owned by Domo. But anyway, CEO.com did this survey of like how people view social CEOs. And the statistics are insane, where it's like, I think the lowest number was like 78% up to 91%. They thought that social CEOs were more trustworthy, were better for the brands. They wanted to work for them more. They were inspired by them. They were better leaders, like everything. Because when you put yourself out there in that way as a leader, your team feels energized, they feel inspired, they have someone to follow, they feel more connected. And look, this is one of the things that's really hard, I think, about being a VP or a C-level leader is you probably have a pretty big team beneath you. And that means, and now your team might be fully distributed. It's fully distributed now, but it might be fairly distributed. Like the last time I was in sales, the SDR and account management team was in Portland, but everybody else was in San Francisco. So we didn't get a lot of face time with our leaders. And if they had been more active on social media, we would have had a much better sense of kind of who they were and like felt like we had a closer connection to them, and also had more to sort of connect with them on, because then when we did see them in person, we could have been like, hey, you did this post or you said this thing. And there's sort of more for you to go off of. And I think leaders get nervous about doing those things, worried about sort of saying the wrong thing. But like, dude, because of what David Cancel and Dave Gerhardt did at Drift, like everybody wanted to work at Drift.
Yeah. People, and look at the crowded space that's in, right? There's Intercom, which is another big company. Intercom literally is bigger than Drift in market share. And so, well, or they were, I don't know if they are anymore. Live admins, there's a whole list of these different chat widget apps that are out there. HubSpot has a native one too.
Yeah.
But they were able to do this category creation thing because their exec team was putting themselves out there on social and talking about stuff.
And legit, from a leadership perspective, like my number one recommendation to every single early stage company that I work with and every founder is you need to get active on social. You need to build your personal brand, because here's the other thing is like your personal brand has a lot more reach early on than your company brand. Building a company brand takes a long freaking time. Building a personal brand does not take that long. It really doesn't.
The way I kind of look at it now, and this is something I want especially if you're a leader listening to this, to think about. The way you run your reps and your talent and your marketers and the people that your individual contributors and your leaders should almost be run like a media company. Like, and your brand is the network. It's TBS, it's NBC. Your talent is the shows. That's like,
I like that.
That's a
great analogy.
Yeah,
I love
that's
that.
a parallel to me.
What would you say to people who are insanely nervous, like just being on camera, just their face and everything? Like they just get so like, because I know I have a few friends before they got into comedy, they had, what's it called? They got so anxious on stage that they had panic attack. They had a panic attack when they got off. So people get that. What was your recommendation for them?
Well, a couple things. One, you don't have to do video. Okay. Like it's okay. And I think video is playing weirdly, like on social anyway, or at least on LinkedIn. LinkedIn like deprioritizes video, which like makes me sort of sad because I really love doing video and I just enjoy it. So you don't have to do video. So it's totally okay to find the format or the medium that like works for you. And I'd also say if you are someone, now if you are in sales, like you got to be on LinkedIn and stuff. But I will also say, if you want to make this personal branding thing a career enterprise, find the platform that you just kind of like, right? So I'm working with a founder right now who he's active on LinkedIn, but Twitter is his jam. And partly it's because he's a data guy. And so his audience is a little bit nerdier. They're way more active on Twitter. And like Twitter is he like dominates on that platform because it just, I don't know, it's speaking his language. And that's okay. Like find the place, find the format. Maybe you're amazing at writing blog content. Maybe you've got one of those, I don't know, silky deep voices, and you are just like the born podcaster and you love interviewing people. Like figure out what works for you and like own it, go after it. You don't have to. That's the thing about a personal brand. It's personal. You can create this whole, I don't know, this whole sort of identity and how you connect with people that in a way that fits for you. And so think about like what you genuinely enjoy and what you think you can be consistent at and go after that.
Yeah, I definitely don't talk with a deeper voice. I have a podcast voice, I guess. This is what I sound like all the time.
You sound like a smoker.
My podcast voice is to just sound like I smoke like two packs of
It's like a
cigarettes
chain
a day.
smoker. Boom, boom.
Okay, so yesterday I was on a call with 2 other people and somebody accidentally hit the like Siri button. And so Siri starts talking really loudly on this call that we're on. And they both thought it was me. And I was like,
Oh,
what?
no.
I was like, I don't sound like Siri. Like that kind of bums me out. No.
So one thing I do want to talk about too. So you're getting these close relationships with people because you're putting content out there, you're engaging with them, you're talking with them. What about people that are working deals already? Like, what if you're working? You have a little bit of you dipped your toe a little bit into that area, sort of like in your early part of your career.
Oh
like,
yeah.
What do you do to like get a closer relationship with people? I have some stuff that I'll say after, but I want to know like what your perspective is on it.
So don't just talk about business, like actually give a damn about them as a human. And look, here's the other thing. Like, you know, we all know this, like people don't buy from companies, they buy from people, and companies don't buy from companies. People buy from people. So you got to be constantly thinking about the individuals that you're working with when closing a deal and understanding what they're going through, empathizing with them. Don't just think about the deal, think about the relationship. So find out about them, ask about them, like actually give a damn about the experience that they have, understand how, like what they're going through. And that stuff will build naturally. The other thing I will say, and I had a really interesting call recently with someone who he started his career as a programmer and then became an SE. And then he was working for a consulting firm and he was in sales for this consulting firm. And he said that he spent the first like few years trying to be like a sales guy. And he said that like it was super draining. He would be so exhausted at the end of calls and at the end of the day, and he wasn't very good at it. And then all of a sudden he realized that he didn't need to think about selling. He needed to think about helping. And so he started to sell in a way that was really like authentic to him. And so he's a nerd, and he like owns the fact that he is a nerd. And so he would talk about the data and the nerdy aspects of stuff and get really nerdy with them. And he started to absolutely kill it as a salesperson. So the other thing I would say is like, find a sales process and a way of connecting and talking about what you do in a way that is really authentic for you. Don't try to be like the other guy with the pointy-toed shoes and, you know, whatever. Like, be you. Maybe you are the guy with the pointy-toed shoes.
Rishi's afraid the camera's going to pan down and expose his toed shoes.
But like,
I'm barefoot.
You know, whatever. He's got like jean shorts on underneath that blazer and tie. I know you both do. But no, like, be authentically you in the process and authentically connect with the person that you're doing business with.
One of the things that I like to think about is I talk about this a lot. So I didn't come up with this. I originally learned this it's really silly. My senior year of high school, I went to Parrington Academy. Shout out to everyone from Pinkerton, if you happen to go to that place. I didn't go to a private school. I know everyone's thinking that. It's a public charter school. Basically, my town, I live in New Hampshire, was so small that they would send students, they'd pay our tuition to go to the school because they didn't want to build a high school. So yeah, but cool place, big school. I had like a huge graduating class. I had this teacher, Mr. Roderick. I don't even know if he's still alive anymore. Isn't that crazy to think about that? Like people you had in high school might be dead. Yeah. I know that sounds sad, but I'm just thinking about it because like he was probably in his 60s when he was my teacher, and he might not be around anymore. I don't know. But he was a great English teacher. He got me fired up about writing and all this stuff. He talked about this thing, and I've told people about it before. I call it the 3 stages of conversation. And it's basically, you can have human connection with people if you go to these 3 stages. The first is small talk, current events, stuff like that. It's really boring, like, how about them socks? You know, like boring conversations like that. And then stage 2 is common interests. Like, what are things that you both share outside of whatever you're talking about? One of the things that you talked about earlier was enthusiasm. And I think that's really important because you can not just be enthusiastic about your company, you can actually be enthusiastic about their company and stand out way more doing that.
Yeah. And look, that was my absolute favorite thing about being in sales is that I got to talk to so many different companies and learn how many ways there are to make a buck in this world. And not just a buck, but like millions of them. I mean, I sold a deal once, this is before I got into tech, to a company that they make non-edible sausage casings for smoked sausage. And it's $100 million company.
Oh my God.
What does that mean? What does that mean? I don't understand. What do you do with it?
You take it off. You take
it off. Right? So it's like, you know, when you get like, I don't know, some sort of smoked sausage and you have to like cut off they make that. Like, I mean, just random stuff like that. And it's super interesting. And so that's the other thing is like, you can learn so much about how business works by taking an active interest in what your prospects and your buyers do.
Kind of seems like LeadIQ needs to pivot, guys.
Totally.
Should we do those little things on Legos, those little bumps? We could be that company.
Or the weird like knockoff brand of Legos. I forget what it's called.
Egos waffle.
The last stage of this is obviously the stage 3 of conversation is internal feelings. Yeah. Talking about what your dreams, aspirations, what your goals are. Talking about why are we here, existential stuff. And I actually think that it's easier to do that now than it was a couple of years ago because there's more information. You usually start conversations on stage 2 of common interest. You can find common interest before you reach out to someone. But if you're working with someone in a conversation, don't just be like, hey, let's talk about the sales process. I'm going to do a slide share and do this pitch for you. Like, don't do that instead. That got really creepy. Instead, like, open up the conversation, ask them a couple of things like, hey, what's up? What'd you do this weekend? Like, and then whenever they give that information, don't just ask them that. I know that sounds really stupid. Tell them what you did too.
Yes.
They're not going to ask back. Just be like, oh, I went to this. One of the guys on our team, Steve Benson, who's been here for like 4 years now. Steve is a Seattle Seahawks fan and figures out like almost every conversation he'll ask someone what their NFL team is and then talk about their roster of like front to back. And I love it. I love listening to Steve talk about it because it allows, especially during football season, it allows him to like touch someone about something that has nothing to do with the deal and just be like, hey, what'd you think? You guys did pretty well this week, or you guys sucked this week or something.
Exactly. It is that kind of human connection thing. The one thing that I will say though, and I'm seeing this a lot, is this can't be fake. And there's a lot, you see this a lot right now with everything that's going on with COVID, particularly in prospecting, where it's like you get an email that's like, hey, I really hope your family is safe and healthy, right into selling. And you're like, it just like falls flat.
Did you really care about my family?
Really care? Are you just trying to sell me something? And so I think that's my one caution is like, you actually have to be genuine about it, but it is worth that investment. It's worth it like for your bottom line, but it's also keep in mind I know so many people that have been hired by people that were originally prospects. And that only happens when you build a real relationship with the person on the other end of the phone.
I told this story. I remember once I had a prospect. I think I told this in a webinar a couple months ago to people. So if you heard this before, don't yell at me. I heard there was this one prospect I talked to right before Thanksgiving, and I cold called them, and this person had started a side project, and I had started a side project at the time, so we were talking about that on the cold call. Mm-hmm. And I remember it was right before Thanksgiving, and I said, "What are you doing for Thanksgiving? You doing anything cool?" After he had agreed to do a meeting with me, and he was like, "I'm actually really nervous about the meeting. I'm nervous about going home. I'm coming out to my parents this weekend." Whoa. And I'm just like.
Yeah.
Like this guy's gonna tell me. This guy's telling me a SDR that lives in his mom's basement that like he's coming out to his parents, and he's like a VP of infrastructure at some company. And I immediately was
amazing.
Like, the guy was from Texas, and I immediately was like, if they don't like you, screw that. Like you don't need them. Like I gave him a pep talk and stuff. And I remember we got off the call. Week later, when we actually had the meeting booked with the AE where I was doing the handoff, do you think he went to the meeting? Hell yeah, he went to the meeting. And then when we opened up the call, I was like, hey, how'd it go this week? And he said, it went great. Wasn't even a big deal. They thought already everything was great. I was just like, holy crap. Guess what that guy did? He kept moving to new companies every 2 or 3 years, and he brought me with him.
Yep.
Every company, and he was introing an SDR to do it. I eventually moved to the marketing team, and he was still introing me to people on the team to go demo with us because he appreciated the time, and we got into those deep feelings about stuff. And I didn't just listen to him. I told him like, yeah, I have issues with my parents sometimes too. Like I related to him. I got in the hole with him and was empathetic about it.
That's amazing. And like, what an honor that he trusted you with that information.
I love that. It's like, it made me feel really good about being an SDR at the time. I was a BDR technically, but like, it made me feel really good about being on the call with him and being there for him.
See, I would tell Ryan secret things, but now I know he tells it on webinars. I'm not gonna tell him anything. Sharing all my deepest, darkest secrets.
Rishi, I can't believe that your mom and you aren't talking right now. It's so sad. She just comes on camera. Kasey, we are kind of getting close to time to wrap up. I can't believe how quickly time went by on this. I want people in here to think. I wish that I could get everyone that's watching this to think about things that we do right now that haven't changed in the past 100 years. Like, I talk about this all the time, but sales started because people used to go talk to people face to face, and they'd sell them. And then when door to door scaled, they made scripts. And then when email came, our phones came out, they started reading those scripts. Email came out, same exact thing. We're now at a point where the way that we sell has changed a lot.
Yeah.
And technology is sold, but there are plenty of people that are still doing it the old way. Yeah. How do you make a sincere connection with someone like today? And what do you think? What do you think is I guess you kind of answered that question already. I guess the point I'm getting at is this. What do you think is the one thing that needs to change about sales right now? If you could change one thing, you had a magic lamp, and you obviously weren't using the wish on ending COVID or any of that stuff.
I would automate a lot less. I would slow this process down. And I think here's the thing that is tough about sales is we all have a quota. We're all held by this number. And sales people tend to be pretty competitive, and we're all trying to beat out that other person. And that rush to reach a certain number, I think in the long run costs us. And I think we have this opportunity to look at the process and look at how we do things and say, I think there's a different way and a better way. And it's interesting. I had a conversation yesterday with someone who was talking about so I think often that engineering teams and sales teams are similar in that no one else in the company understands them, and they're kind of allowed to do whatever the hell that they want. And software development teams over the last few years have really shifted how they measure productivity. And it used to be about individuals, and now it's about teams. And I really hope that sales starts to adopt that, where we think about how the team is doing as a whole instead of individual sales reps. Because if we can think about it as a team, I think we would start to slow down a little bit, and we would do a better job of how we build real relationships and how we support one another so that we are all doing better together instead of just grinding it out and sending more emails and upping the volume and all of that. And I really hope that everybody looks at this really challenging time as this opportunity to say, hey, let's take a step back. Let's take a pause, and let's think about how there might be a different and better way to operate as a team, operate as individuals that serves both our team and our teammates, but also our buyers and our customers.
Imagine if I love that, by the way. Imagine if you as a leader are listening to this and you thought, I want every customer that comes in on a call with us to say, wow, that was one of the best calls I've ever been on.
Yep.
If we approached it and just thought like that, just stopped and said, I want our reps to really care. I want it to be different. I want sales to be competitive. The way we sell should be a competitive advantage. It shouldn't be a way to hit a number. That's the way it should be approached.
Well, and
It
here's
should
the
be
deal.
what, an experience, basically?
It should be an experience. And here's the deal. I don't care what you sell. There's like 10 other companies that sell basically the same thing. Customers are going to buy from you because of the experience that you give them. And we think about customer experience as like from the product on. Nope. It starts with sales, and it starts with marketing. And sales teams and sales leaders, I think, need to think about that a lot more.
So we're gonna wrap up at this point. Kasey, thank you very much for being on. Do you want to
for
plug
having
anything?
me.
Yeah, do you want to plug anything?
If you are thinking about how to become a thought leader in your field, go check out Our Galaxy. It's ourgalaxy.co. We have a private community that's all about this, and we're doing bi-weekly webinars and tons of content. And I'm about to start a new podcast that's all about teaching people how to get out there and be well known and well respected for the work they do.
Awesome. Thank you for coming on, Kasey. Rishi,
thanks for having me.
I can't wait to get out of this Zoom. I don't like being on Zooms with you. It makes me upset.
You guys are so mean to each other.
I'm not mean. I think he's a great leader. He has a great smile. I say nothing but nice things to him. He has a chipmunk smile. It's amazing.
Hey, Rishi, while we're doing this, maybe we'll do it. Maybe on our next episode, we'll do your 90-day review in front of everyone.
Well, if you need,
best leader I've ever had.
If you need some external in the 360 review, you need somebody outside of the company to review Rishi, you send that review my way.
I will absolutely.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Take care. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye, everyone.